Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk.
What's up, everybody? Big Herc getting down with Fresh Out. You tuned in to another edition of Prison Talk. Hope you guys are subscribed to the channel so that you guys don't miss out on any of these great episodes. We try bringing you guys the latest and greatest, whether it be answering questions or keeping you up to date on what's going on with the whole prison system. Some big stuff is going down right now. August 21st, 2018, a nationwide prison strike has just begun. People in prison are tired of the slave labor wages. They're tired of the inhumane conditions, and they decide to take a stand. And apparently what's going on is it's a wake-up call. It's basically saying that, hey, we got to do something about this system. It's broken, and we need to quit putting Band-Aids on it, and we need to fix it. They're calling for work strikes, sit-ins, hunger strikes, and they want prisoners across the country to make as much noise as possible until their demands for human and just treatment are met. So a lot of you guys, who haven't been to jail, you probably don't care too much about people who are in there because you may think that they're in there because they did something wrong and they deserve the treatment they're getting. But just because a person is paying their debt to society doesn't mean that they should be subjected to a lot of the things that are taking place in prison, whether it be the food, whether it be the brutality, whether it be the violence, whether it be the just the animalistic behavior. You shouldn't have to go into prison for a mistake and try to better yourself and come out a worse person. And for a lot of people, a mistake is something that you want to try to come back from, but for a lot of people, they're not able to come back from that mistake because of the things they experience in prison. Some of the things that they want as far as the list of demands of the prisoners are immediate improvements to the conditions of prisons and prisoners and prisons policy that recognize the humanity of imprisoned men and women, an immediate end to prison slavery. All the persons in prison in any place of detention under United States jurisdiction must be paid the prevailing wage in their state or territory for their labor. I don't know if you guys know, but guys right now are out fighting fires in California for less than $1 an hour. Slave wages. They're risking life. They're doing a duty. These guys who are on the fires, they're guys who are trying to rehabilitate themselves. They're trustworthy individuals. That's why they're on the fires. And they should be paid what the regular guys are getting paid. Why should they get paid any less just because they're locked up? That's not right. You go down south and some of the places in Louisiana, down in some of the country states, down there, South Carolina stuff, they got the guards riding around on horses, and you're basically fielding crops. You're doing what the slaves did back in the day. So there is no opportunity to better yourself when you're out in the field. And people say, well, better yourself. Yeah, better yourself. You just want everybody to go in and come out fucked up, and the whole purpose is to rehabilitate, is to make a person better. Now, if you did the math, in California, it's roughly $76,000, $74,000 a year to house an inmate, which costs, that's more than a Yale or Harvard tuition. If they could spend that kind of money, why wouldn't they put that money into programs that are going to benefit? You know why? Because a lot of the people working at the prisons benefit from the guys being in there. So when you got less people in prison, you don't need as many prisons. You can close down more prisons and less jobs. So the recidivism is actually beneficial to the people who work the prison system. One of the other things they want improvements on, Prison Litigation Reform Act must be rescinded, allowing imprisoned humans proper channel to address grievances and violations of the rights. They got a prison grievance system that's some straight shit. You know, a lot of times when things happen, your family can't get a hold of you. You're subject to the laws of the prison, which are no jurisdiction. You don't have any rights. You're very limited as far as when something goes down, what kind of legal representation you can have. You know, they put you in SEG or, you know, isolated confinement where you don't have the opportunity to reach out to people to get advice. And a lot of things happen, man. People get stabbed, people get killed, people get raped, and you don't have any recourse, you know, unless you have somebody out there fighting for you who's going to be your voice. And a lot of people don't have that. The Truth in Sentencing Act and the Sentencing Reform Act must be rescinded so that imprisoned humans have a possibility of rehabilitation and parole. No human shall be sentenced to death by incarceration or serve any sentence without possibility of parole. An immediate end to racial overcharging, over-sentencing, and parole denials of black and brown humans. Black humans shall no longer be denied parole because the victim of the crime was white, which is a particular problem in the southern states. It is, whether you guys want to believe it or not. You can take a look at a lot of the different things I posted on Instagram about a black person having the same crime as a white person. And I've seen it time and time again. Young black male, 18, no record, gets caught, you know, not to say any of it's right, but get caught for murder, get the death penalty, sentenced as an adult. Another guy, school shooting, no record, he gets, you know, he gets the insanity plea. Insanity plea? That's some straight bullshit. An immediate end to racist gang enhancements laws targeting black and brown. Yeah, you got some tattoos, you know, we're going to put you into a gang jacket and basically now enhance your crime. How about the gang jackets on the priests who are raping all the kids in the cover-up? I don't see RICO charges for them. You want to keep it real? Go after the Catholic Church. What about the cover-ups with them? I don't see them trying to gather all them up for the conspiracy. Keep it real if you're going to keep it real. If you're going to do it to the black and brown, do it to the priest too. No imprisoned human should be denied rehabilitation programs at their place of detention because they're labeled as a violent offender. State prisons must be funded specifically to offer more rehabilitation services. I know that a lot of times certain organizations lobby against certain programs because when you have a prison that doesn't have violence, where everybody gets along, where there's a level of humanity, nobody gets overtime. I've seen where a prison is cool, no problems. They'll bring in somebody to create a problem so that they can take away certain privileges and justify the acts of violence against the inmates. It's a fucking game they play. Pell Grants must be reinstated in all U.S. states and territories. The voting rights of all confined citizens serving prison sentences, pretrial detainees, and so-called ex-felons must be counted. Representation is demanded. All voices count. Now, this is the group who's really pushing for this is a group called Jailhouse Lawyers Speak, and you know, they are really trying to make a difference in what's going on in the prisons and helping a lot of these prisoners get some type of fair voice out there. And it's pretty sad, man, you know, when you look at other countries in Europe and how they treat their prisoners in the prisons and how those prisoners turn out after they get out, how productive they are, how you know, how much they've become a value to society when they get out rather than, you know, go back. Most of those prisoners in those states, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Australia, they don't go back. They don't have the recidivism we have here. Why is that? You know, we're one of the wealthiest nations in the country, and yet we have the most people incarcerated per capita in the world. It doesn't add up. You know, there's a lot of reform that needs to be done, and the organizers of this event are staying anonymous. You know, they're they're trying to put the voice out there without putting their name on it, which I understand because they will be targeted and there would be accidents, suicides, um, deaths, things that happen to these people if they were to actually expose themselves. But I think that this really needs to be addressed, and I can kind of see where these guys are coming from. I studied the law when I was in prison, and I used to help a lot of guys file petitions, grievances, administrative process, habeas corpuses, different appeals, and a lot of the guys, they weren't educated, so they didn't understand certain legalese. They needed help in formatting certain things, and I was that guy. I used to help them. I used to help a lot of people out, man. And so I can feel for a lot of the guys who are just trying to get their fair share. And when you turn around and look at some of these other situations, not to say one's justifiable more than the other, whether it be black and white, but when you look at it, it's just not right, man. It's not right that, these human beings aren't being treated humanely, and they're not given the opportunity to better themselves, and that they're actually forced into a position where they have to become animalistic or barbaric in order to survive and make it through their prison sentence. It just goes to show that there are people out there who recognize, and this article is pretty long, so I'm not going to read all the details from it, but it speaks a lot on, this being a wake-up call, and, how the system is just very fucked up, man. And I do these prison talks not to glamorize prison, not to bash the law enforcement, not to endorse violence or gang activity. I do this to educate people who may be on the verge of doing something wrong and they want to change and do something positive, or those who maybe already are in trouble and they're trying to figure out how to survive, or to educate law enforcement to a degree on just the other side, in that, when you're dealing with certain individuals, you can't deal with those individuals in fear, because that's what creates the distrust, and that's what creates all these fucked up situations you see right now on social media. And you get rid of the fear, you work on communication, you create some dialogue, and we can clean the system up, because it does need to be cleaned up. And we have good and bad on every side, but something does need to be done about the system. And this nationwide strike, this sit-in, this work strike, I think is something, I've heard it talked about before, and a lot of guys, they just didn't want to do it because they needed the money. Even though there was no unity, but the prisons work off of economics. CCA, Whack and HUD, all these private institutions who make money off of building these private prisons in these cities that have no income, no jobs. It's a fucking business, man, given the black and brown, crazy amounts of time for a crime where after a year or so, you already know better. I mean, give a motherfucker a chance to get out and do the right thing. If he fucks up, then okay. You know that he's a fucking knucklehead, but, some of these sentences, man, for some of these crimes, and then you look at some of these fucking pedophiles and some of these chomos and how you guys treat them, it's fucking sickening, man. It's fucking sickening. I get them all the time. Oh, why are they any worse than... What? Why are they any worse? Go after the motherfucking churches who are touching all these kids. Yeah, throw a RICO on them. Or a CCE. It's a criminal enterprise continuing. All this shit needs to be cleaned up. And would love to hear your comments and your feedback, because, if you have a loved one in prison, you can understand where I'm coming from. And if you don't, well, I just ask that you open your heart and that you take into consideration the humanity that you would like to be spread across the world and how you would like somebody to act towards you, and what type of person do you really want coming out of prison, and how those resources, the money being spent, how it could be better spent. If you're going to spend that much money on a person, $75,000 a year, why can't that person get a valuable education or program from that? What are they spending it on? Who's paying that? The taxpayers are paying it. You know, that's who's paying for it. You guys, make a difference, man. Wake up. Big Herc, man, getting down fresh out.
Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in. Exclusively at FreshOutSeries.com.